Hey there, Bassketeers. This is Josh Fosgreen, your bass instructor at IMT, and this video is just a quick video to show you the two shapes I use to play a major scale in one octave in any key, but I'll show you here visually in the key of C. So we'll start with what I call the second finger major scale shape because you're starting on your second finger. The other one's called first finger shape because we're starting on our first finger. I just made those up. Don't expect other people to know exactly what you mean until you show them, but it works as a distinction. So we'll start with the second finger shape, which looks and sounds like this, and I'll talk you through it in a sec. So one note at a time, that's a C starting on the 3rd fret of the A string, then a D on the 5th fret, then an E on the 2nd fret of the D string, an F on the 3rd fret, a G on the 5th fret, then an A on the 2nd fret of the G string, a B on the 4th fret, and a C on the 5th fret. Let's go through that one more time, and this time I'll tell you which fingers to use too. So we've got our C with our second finger, D with the 4th finger, then we go 1, 2, 4, then 1, 3, 4. So 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. Just to make sure you know what I'm talking about, we use 4 finger numbers on bass. Your index is 1, your middle is 2, ring is 3, pinky's 4. It's different than piano fingering because we don't start with your thumb. So again, that's second finger on the C, 4th on the D, 1st on E, 2nd on F, 4th on G, 1st on A, 3rd on B, and 4th on C. And on the way down, 4, 3, 1, 4, 2, 1, 4, 2. So I'll go through that one more time, just give you all the info on each note. So C, 3rd fret of the A string, 2nd finger, D, 5th fret of the A string, 4th finger, E, 2nd fret of the D string, 1st finger, F on the 3rd fret with your 2nd finger, G on the 5th fret with your 4th finger, now up to the G string, A on the 2nd fret with your 1st finger, B on the 4th fret with your 3rd finger, and C on the 5th fret. Now let's go back down too, just for super reinforcement bass action. C on the 5th fret of the G string with your 4th finger, then on the same string a B with your 3rd finger on the 4th fret, and an A on the 2nd fret with your 1st finger. Now down to the D string, we've got a G on the 5th fret with our 4th finger, an F on the 3rd fret with our 2nd finger, an E on the 2nd fret with our 1st finger. Then on the A string, we've got a D on the 5th fret with our 4th finger, and finally a C on the 3rd fret with our 2nd finger. There's your major scale. So before we get to the first finger shape, which is the other of two shapes that I tend to use the most, let's try that in another key, just so you can see that the same shape will be a major scale in any key. You just have to pick the start note to put it in a key. So let's do it in the key of E major. And we're going to start up on an E on the 7th fret of the A string. So we're going to do the same shape. We're going to use the same fingering, and all the notes are going to be the same number of frets and strings apart. It's just starting in a different place. And you'll notice that it sounds identical, except that it's in a different key. So if you play them together, obviously they don't sound exactly the same, but they sound the same within the confines of themselves. All the notes have the same relationships to each other, which is why it's still a major scale even though you've changed keys. So let's try it together in the key of E. So we're starting with our 2nd finger on the 7th fret of the A string, which is an E. Then we go up to the 9th fret with our 4th finger, 6th fret of the D string with our 1st finger, 7th fret with our 2nd, 9th fret with our 4th, up to the G, first finger on the 6th fret and third finger on the 8th fret, and then finish with the 4th finger on the 9th fret. Then back down, starting with the 4th finger on the 9th fret of the G, which is an E. That's how we know we finish the scales. We start on an E, when we get to another E, that's 1 octave. So we've got an E with our 4th finger, a D sharp on the 8th fret with our 3rd finger, and a C sharp on the 6th fret with our 1st finger. Then on the D string, a B natural with our 4th finger on the 9th fret, an A natural on the 7th fret with our 2nd finger, a G sharp on the D string on the 6th fret with our 1st finger, then an F sharp on the 9th fret of the A string with our 4th finger, and back to our E, 7th fret of the A string, 2nd finger. So you can try doing that in different keys, and you can literally start that anywhere on the bass as long as start your root on either the E string or the A string. Because since the shape I just taught you takes up 3 strings, you have to start it somewhere where you can go, where you've got 2 strings above it. So you can only start it on the E or the A string, or else you'd have to do a shift to play the rest of the scale. So here's the other shape I use. This is starting on our 1st finger. And let's do this in the key of C again, but this time let's play that C on the E string instead of on the A string. So we're going to be starting on the 8th fret of the E string, which on most basses is right past your 3rd dot. You've got a dot at the 3rd fret, the 5th fret, and the 7th fret, and we're up on the 8th fret with our 1st finger. And this is going to be exactly the same notes. We're just using a different shape to play the scale. So a couple of the notes, I shifted them over a string and moved them up 5 frets to get them in a different position. And so now the major scale looks like this. So let's go through it together. So we've got a C on the 8th fret of the E string with our 1st finger, then up to a D on the 10th fret with our 2nd finger, then up to an E on the 12th fret with your 4th finger. So it might feel like a bit of a stretch to get from this C to this E, and if that's the case, you can go ahead and move your hand up a little bit as you go. But it might be worth trying to stretch your hand out a little bit. I admittedly have very large hands, but there are plenty of bass players with smaller hands than me that do this 4-fret stretch. So that's part of why I'm starting us so high up on the neck too, because the frets are smaller here than here, so it's easier to reach. So C, 8th fret, D on the 10th fret, E on the 12th fret. Now we're actually going to repeat that shape on the A string. So we've got an F on the 8th fret with our 1st finger, G on the 10th fret with our 2nd finger, an A on the 12th fret with our 4th finger. And the last 2 notes are a B natural on the 9th fret of the D string with your 1st finger, and a C on the 10th fret with your 2nd finger. Then back down, C on the 10th fret with your 2nd finger, B on the 9th fret with your 1st finger, then on the A string, 12th fret with your 4th finger, G on the 10th fret with your 2nd finger, F on the 8th fret with your 1st finger, E on the 12th fret of the E string with your 4th finger, D on the 10th fret with your 2nd, and C on the 8th fret with your 1st finger. And again, you can move this shape around and play it in different keys. Let's try doing it in the key of A, just so you get a chance to try it out. So we're going to start on the 12th fret of the A string. We're going to start on the 12th fret of the A string, and it's going to be the same shape. And if that stretch was hard for you down here, it might be a little easier up here because the frets are even closer together. So let's try this, and let's actually do it in rhythm this time. 1, 2, ready, go. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's repeat the root. 1, 2, 3, 4, And let's try that down an octave too, so you can see how this looks with open strings in there. So we're going to start on an open A string, and it's actually going to be an identical shape, but what you're going to have to do is imagine that the first note and the fourth note that normally start the A string and D string positions are your open strings. So if you imagine fretting the open string, then you'll see that this is the same shape. So we're going to go open A, second fret, fourth fret, and you can do first finger, fourth finger here. Then go open D, first on the second fret, fourth finger on the fourth fret. Then a G sharp, first fret on the G string with your first finger, and second finger on the second fret with your, what did I just say? Second finger, second fret, G string. So see how that's the same shape we just did? There's just a couple open strings in there. So let's go up and down together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. So those are the two shapes I use for a 1-octave scale. Keep in mind that whatever key you're in, you can actually play notes from that scale anywhere on the bass, but you have to start somewhere, so I start you with these 1-octave shapes that you can actually wrap your head around. But eventually, you know, say you're in the key of C major or F major or D minor, any key you're in, the notes of that scale actually span all over the bass, and with time you can move around more fluidly. But you have to start somewhere, and it's okay to just start with a little position box like this. Eventually you'll feel a little stuck in that box, and then we'll start moving you out into 2-octave scales and doing some more exercises so that you can move more fluidly. But this is a great way to start, and start experimenting with the sounds you can make with the major scale.